Hello students, I'm going to in this video be doing question 718 section B, but I'm going to be changing the required. The original required was to record the transactions in the general journal, and what I'm going to be doing instead is to prepare the capital general ledger accounts of the partners. So I'm going to be doing the general ledger accounts. The original question asked you to do the journal entries. I will talk about the journal entries as I do the ledger accounts, but remember what I've said with partnerships, you have to think about what's different about partnerships. And I've said to you before that in a partnership, each partner has a capital account. The capital account only shows the amount that the partners have contributed, and the only time it changes is when there's an admission or retirement of a partner. So in section B of this question, there's a retirement of a partner. So we're going to look at what the capital account looks like when the partner Lila retires. So this is the information. We start off with the information that was that we got from section A. And Jade and Lila are partners in Jacaranda Paints, and remember we said they share profit and losses according to their capital contributions, so we calculate their percentage based on what their capital contributions are. And so these are the balances at the 1st of July, the end of June 2009, the 1st of July 2009, and then the current account balances are given to us also at the 1st of July 2009, and we'll see both of them here have a credit balance. So these are all credit balances. They all represent amounts owing to the partners at the 1st of July 2009. Lila decided to retire from the partnership on the 1st of July 2009, and her total interest in the entity is going to be paid out to her. And her interest includes $4,800 for goodwill and $6,000 for an increase in the value of the entity's land. So her interest in the entity, in other words, her portion of the goodwill is $4,800, and her portion of the increase in the value of the land is $6,000. So in the partnerships books, there currently would be no goodwill, but there would be land. But now what we're saying is the land is actually worth more than the value that's in the books. So this is Lila's portion of that increase in value, as well as her portion of the goodwill, which isn't recorded in the books. But what we're going to do is we're going to take into account the goodwill when we work out how much Lila has due to her when she retires, because goodwill is an asset that she helped to build up in the partnership. But then once we've done the calculation, we're actually going to reverse the goodwill, because the goodwill is not going to remain in the books of the entity after the retirement of Lila. Goodwill is something that's very you're not really allowed to show in the books of any kind of entity unless it's something you've particularly purchased. If you've paid an amount for goodwill, then you can show it in your books. But otherwise, like you learnt in intangible assets, but otherwise in partnerships, most of the time we will tell you the goodwill has to be reversed. So we can record the transactions relating to retirement of Lila not in the general journal. We're going to put them in the capital account. So the first thing we do in the capital accounts is we put in the opening balances. So remember, these balances up to now have just been the contributions that the partners have made to the partnership, and nothing else has probably touched them besides if they put additional amounts in, then this represents the total capital they've invested up until that point. We can work out that Jade owns a 60% portion of the partnership. The 120,000 plus the 80,000 adds up to 200,000, and his portion, the 120, represents 60% of 200,000, which means Lila owns 40% of the partnership. 40 plus 60 together obviously adds up to 100%. So the next entry we put into the capital account is the entry for goodwill. So we know that Lila's portion of the goodwill is 4,800 Rand, but remember that will then only represent 40% of the total goodwill amount. So Jade's portion of the goodwill, we take the 4,800 and we divide it by 40%, what you can do, just to make it easier, is you divide it by 0.4. And then once you've got that number, then you multiply it by 0.6, and that will then give you the goodwill that relates to Jade. So in the books of the partnership, the journal entry is that we debited goodwill with this total, and this total comes to 12,000 Rand, and we credited Jade's capital account with his portion of the goodwill, and Lilla's capital account with her portion of the goodwill. So this is increasing the capital of the partners, because this is an asset that both of them have built up in the business. So we're crediting the capital account of Lilla and Jade. These are amounts which would then be owing to them by the partnership. Then the same thing happens with land. They tell us that the land has increased in value, and Lilla's portion of the increase is 6,000 Rand. Which means if we want to work out Jade's portion of the increase, we've got to take 6,000 Rand and divide it by 40%. So you can divide it by 0.4. And once you've done that, you're going to get 15,000 Rand as your answer. And if you multiply 15,000 Rand by 0.6, that gives you Jade's portion of the increase in the land. So if the total value of land increased by 15,000, the journal entry is debit land with 15,000 in the books of the partnership, credit Jade's account with 9,000, that's 60%, and credit Lilla's account with 40%, which is 6,000. So we can see here we are increasing the capital account of Lilla, because basically since she joined the partnership, this goodwill has been created and the land has increased in value, and we're now attributing her share of the increase in both of those assets to her capital account so that it can get paid out to her when she retires. The next thing we need to do is Lilla had a credit balance on her current account, so we needed to take that credit balance out of the current account. So the journal entry is debit current account, credit capital account Lilla. So we're just increasing her capital account with the amount that's owing to her on her current account as well. So now after this, the current account balance will be 0, and everything that's owing to Lilla will be sitting in one account. What we then do is we work out the credit amount here is 93,891. So we're going to pay Lilla the 80,000 back that she contributed. We're going to give her 4,800 for her portion of the goodwill that was created while she was a partner. We're going to give her 6,000 for her portion of the increase in the value of the land while she was a partner. And we're going to pay out the balance on her current account, which is all the profits, the salaries, the interest and so on, that hasn't yet been paid out to her. So the 93,891 represents the full amount that's due to her. So the journal entry to clear that, we will debit her capital account, and credit bank will make a payment to Lilla of 93,891. We don't always make a payment. Sometimes, for example, the question might say that we're going to pay Lilla out later, and then we would end up having a loan account where we owe Lilla the money. But in this question, we paid Lilla the amount owing. What needs to happen now is that the 12,000 Rand goodwill that we created, remember the 12,000 Rand was created by debiting goodwill and crediting the capital account of Jade and the capital account of Lilla. So now that 12,000 Rand needs to be reversed, because we're not keeping the goodwill as an asset. The rules of accounting is that if it's an asset that was internally generated and it wasn't purchased, then that asset may not be reflected in the statement of financial position. So we have to credit goodwill, reduce the goodwill balance to 0, and we debit that amount then to the remaining partner's capital account. So we're debiting Jade's account with 12,000 Rand. So we've reversed the full amount of the goodwill. So Jade's account will then, on the credit side, have an amount of 136,200 owing to him, and we subtract from that then the goodwill that's been reversed. So Jade, after the retirement of Lilla, has a final balance on his capital account owing to him of 124,200. So you can see after Lilla's retirement, his capital account has increased. It was first 120,000, now it's 124,200. And what will also then be in the books of the partnership after Lilla has retired is this increase in the value of land. Would have stayed there. We haven't reversed that. The debit entry was to land, and the credit here to the capital accounts of the partners has remained. It's only the goodwill that we've reversed. So it's important that you can recreate capital accounts for partnerships. You need to know the journal entries, and you need to know what the general ledger accounts of the partners will look like.